Uh, so I started knitting lace, of course, by following the instructions, but that didn't help me in actually continuing to do pick up pattern from any knit book and work on it. Charts help me do that. Why? Because chart is the visual representation of your actual pattern. Now, if you see this pattern, the eyelets are here on peg 8s and on peg 2.
So
When
the circles equal the
circles.
eyelets.
Eyelets. So when you knit it, it kind of come up, make a roundish bell-shaped structure, which is this. If you see this pattern, you will see that it goes like this in.
So
And this is created by when you move stitches from, lift up the stitch from peg 2, bring it on peg 3, the one that is sitting on peg 3, bring it on 4, and then bring it on 5. So this movement forms a semi kind of a bell-shaped thing.
So that's as we shift. For those of you who haven't been in a class before, when we move the stitches, we call it shifting stitches. So you're going to shift to the left or shift them to the right.
And shifting creates the shape, which gives this signature very intricate shapes to lace work or eyelet work. This is one of the simplest but most versatile and prettiest lace pattern that I have come up with. It's very easy. My suggestion is to start small. We are all impressed by huge blankets, big cowl, 60-inch long shawls. You will get there definitely, but it's perfectly okay to start with a small project like this.
And it's a beautiful, that's a beautiful washcloth. Like, look what a gorgeous little washcloth that is.
And you know, it is Caron, it is a Bernard blanket yarn, worsted weight. And it's so soft. I'm going to give it out to a baby with a baby shower gel. And then this is my another small item, which is a soap bag. It's very cute. I suggest you all put, I wanted to learn how to do the this iCard thing. So I made an iCard, but it can be done in like 2 hours. It's done on this 48 and it has 3 and 6 repeats of the pattern on 40 peg loom.
That's so cute.
On which I'm going to demonstrate today. So my humblest suggestion is to, you know, make the washcloth first. And another pretty thing about this pattern is that it forms a natural scallop at the start. So if you continue making this for 60 inches, instead of stopping at 10 to make it a washcloth, if you continue making it into the same length, same width, and continue making it for 60 inches, what you will come up with?
A scarf.
What you will come up with? A scarf. You do this on 64 peg and continue working for 60 inches, and you will come up with a shawl, a wrap. You're going to make it, use the same thing, but repeat the pattern maybe 20 times, like, you know, 15 times on, what's that?
You could use like the large flexi loom, add more, and just make it as large as you like, right?
And you can come up with a blanket. You don't need separate pattern for that.
Right.
So after this class, Christy is going to publish the ebook, which doesn't have much different thing. It has the pattern beside these 2 patterns that you will learn from this class. That is the hat and the washcloth. It has cowl. It has the boot warmer and a matching cowl. This is like a big elegant cowl. I knitted it on 128 pegs round of gun loom. it came in one piece and you don't have, there is no seam anywhere. You can, if you have 120 peg Afghan loom of 7/16 or half an inch or 5/8, you can get the similar result. Just use the chunkier yarn.
So I have a question. I have two questions actually. On the when you're working in the round, because it's not on this pattern, which I was starting to do, and
yes,
I did try to ask you.
So the hat one is in the round.
Hat.
Yeah, but it doesn't on here. It only says rows. I don't see anything that says round.
You don't need any rows.
So once you complete what you have to have your starter peg, whatever your first peg is. So you're going to want to mark what your first peg is. And when you complete a round to that first peg, you start your second row. So you can either use, like you're using a plastic loom. So you can use like either a stitch marker.
Yeah, I can use,
you can use,
I'm marked. I have them every 8 pegs is marked because I was gonna just do, I just wasn't sure because on this it says use 3 weight or 4 weight, and then it says sock weight, and I got confused. And then it said in her group, it said use chunky weight if you're using the 5/8. So I just put work weight because it's very confusing.
Okay, yeah. So the larger your gauge, the larger the yarn you want to use in order to make.
I understand all that, but this was lace. So sometimes you want to use a lighter gauge on a larger gauge loom. You want to use a lighter weight yarn. And that's what I thought, being it was a lace class. That's what I thought. I'm very familiar with all the rest of it. But that part of it just got me a little, didn't know what to do. So I just.
No worries. I think you'll be able to do it just great with the worsted weight. It'll be just fine.
Okay, Sherry. Thanks for bringing that all up. So I'm starting the pattern. The first 2 rows are cast on, which is E-wrap and pearl. Everybody knows E-wrap and pearl. And I hope that you have got that. Don't do more than that because we all need scallops. And in order to get the scallop, the cast on is just 2 rows. And at max, you will do 1 more row of knit unit, and that's it. That's how I do. So here see how I have marked it. This is the white.
Farah, you're not in the camera, so you're going to want to bring, there we go. Thank you.
Okay, so my first peg is here. Everybody see my first peg, and I've marked it in 8. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is for the sides. The first peg is, it's called slip stitch. It is also called turn around. It is also called half a stitch, right? So all of that means the same thing. So this is the half a stitch. We are going to do, this is the half a stitch. See, everybody saw how I moved it. And then we are doing the purl stitch, 3 pearls. And we all start from this side, which is my right side. This peg is my right hand. I always get confused. No, this is left and this is right. So start on the chart, the first row or the first peg is on the right side. But when you have your loom, this peg is left and the white peg is right. We are starting from.
I want to check with you, Farah. Generally, we use the white peg as the starter peg, but you're using your white peg as your last peg. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So she's using her white peg, everybody, as her last peg. And that's actually very common for people who knit to the right instead of the left. I'm left-handed. I knit to the left. She's knitting to the right. So that's.
I'll tell you why. I tell you why, because when you knit laces, whatever is your border or starting, you knit a 1 row of unit so that you can shift the stitches. And that's why the unit starts from here, and then from here it starts the
the
lace
pattern. So your lace
eyelet.
pattern is going this direction
Alright.
and your unit is
Eyelet
going the
pattern.
other direction. Okay.
Yes. In this 8 stitch and 8 rows pattern, eyelets are on pegs 2 and 8.
Yes.
There is only 2 rows of eyelet, which is incredible because laces, I've knitted laces that has 20 rows of eyelets. 2 rows of eyelets only.
In the 8-row repeat, correct?
Yes, only
Okay.
and those 2 are exactly same. So here I have done 1 half a stitch and 3 pearls, and then the first stitch or the peg of the 8 pegs or 8 stitch pattern, first peg is knit, and all knits are unit. And then there are a first knit, and then there is a yarn over. In order to create a yarn over here, we are going to first go to 5th peg, lift the stitch on peg 4, bring it on peg 5, then lift the stitch on peg 3, bring it on peg 4, lift the stitch on peg 2, bring it on peg 3. Now you see the pegs, peg 2 is empty for the eyelet. We have 2 stitches on peg 3 and 4 and 2 stitches on together on peg 5. But our setup is not yet complete. We will lift the stitch on peg.
Okay, got it.
6, bring it backwards on peg 5. Then pick the stitch on peg 7, bring it backwards on peg 6, stitch on peg 8, bring it backwards on peg 7. This is now the row setup. And that's why you will knit the row, the unit rows, which is all the even rows are knit rows, unit rows, and the knit 1 and knit 3 is a row 1, and row 3 is the eyelet rows or the lace rows. Otherwise, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all unit rows, and you are going to knit them a little loose.
2, 4, 6, 8.
Especially the rows before the lace or the eyelet rows are to be knitted very loose.
Lori, Farah, I've got a couple of questions. So it says, so the only time there's pearls, the only pearl row is your first row when you cast on is a knit row and then a pearl row. That's the only pearl row. There are pearl rows at the not rows, but there are pearl at the on the edges. Now the edges are knit pearl. Now she doesn't repeat the edges in her pattern on the graph, correct? Do you have your pearl stitches on your graph? I don't think so. Generally on her graph, because she uses the same pattern to be made on different projects. So the only part that's on the graph is the lace pattern. So if you're gonna add the edging, you're gonna do 3 pegs or 4 pegs that are 3 pearls or 4 pearls, whatever number you added. And then the next row, those will be knits, and the next row, those will be pearls, and they'll be knits.
If you see, there is the washcloth pattern has 3 pearl edges on each side. Check that.
Not on mine.
It's not on the. It explains it. It explains it in the text. In the text, it's just not on the chart. It's never. We don't. Yeah. She doesn't put those on the chart. It's just explained in the text.
I'll send you the edited version. It was omitted, but you all will get that after the class.
Oh, thank you. It's easy enough to put in. I understand.
Yeah, you will all.
Is that how you're getting the bottom, the scalloped bottom, or if you're?
Oh, the scallop bottom forms because you are shifting the stitches. When you shift the stitches, it pulls a little bit. The pattern is pulled up. It just goes like this and forms the scallop. So now you see I'm going to knit these shifted
Farah,
stitches.
you need to bring it down a little bit further. Your hand's kind of in the way. There you go. That's better.
It is knit 2 and knit 3.
Can't see.
This is knit 3 to
Farah, the way
Farah,
the way the camera is, your hand is in front of the pegs. Can you tilt the loom up so that we can kind of see, and then it will show, we'll be able to see the pegs a little better and not your fist. Yeah, like that.
Okay. So knit 2 and peg 8 is empty. Peg 8 is empty, and you are going to just bring this yarn in front of it loosely.
So you take the yarn in front of the 2 pegs, creating the yarn over. You lay it across the 2 pegs, and then it anchors it by picking over the next peg.
Anchors it in the next set of 8, right? Because the first stitch is knit 1. So
which you already used from the prior set, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Now I'm repeating the same thing. I'm going to repeat this everything 4 times because this is how the pattern is here. There it is 40. This is the socks loom with 40 stitches. 4 on each side is the sides, garter side. And then 30, it is repeated three times, sorry, not 4 times, 3 times. Okay.
So if you're doing it on the round for that hat, how do you just keep going? Because it wouldn't be just 4 times. Okay.
It will be like if it is, yes. For example, if you are making this into a hat, into a small preemie hat or a little baby's hat, you won't do the garter edges. Round knitting is easy. It's just keep
keep going.
Row, yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody pay attention once more. I've knitted 1, and then you are going to go to 5th peg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5th peg. Okay.
Farah, I'm sorry. Usually the way the camera is set up, we don't see your fist mostly, but we're mostly seeing your fist on top of the pegs. So we've got to shift away that makes it so we can actually see.
Okay. I'm going to keep it like this. Now everybody sees. I'm going to keep it like this. This is straight.
Okay, maybe. The problem is we're not seeing that. Usually we can see that. So when it's down, that's great. You need to keep your fist below the wood on the bottom if possible.
Okay, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So we go to peg 5.
Again, it's in the way. Sweetie, I'm so sorry that we're just, I think usually the camera is behind you, I think is why. And now it's in front of you. So generally we're able to, your right hand is going right on top of the peg. So we can't see any shifting happening, and we can't see the movement that we usually can. So we've got to figure out a way to make it so that we're gonna be able to see, because the shifting is the most important part.
This is better now.
Okay, let's try that.
It won't. Yeah, this is better. Okay, so 8 stitch pattern again. First stitch was knit. On 5th peg, we are using the technique which is called CDD, central double decrease. Like the problem. Central double decrease is the technique where we create 3 stitches on a central peg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is our 5th peg. So we create. Yeah. Yeah.
If some of you have not pinned Farah, you'll want to pin Farah by clicking the 3 dots by her name and then making it speaker view so she's bigger. That's also going to help you be able to see her stitches better. So there's usually 3 dots by her name, and you can pin, and then she will be larger, and that will make it easier to see.
All right, so let me go back and explain what is CDD. CDD is central double decrease, which in this pattern is going to be on peg 5th. Central double decrease is like you decrease, we have to move one stitch from each side of the center of a central peg. There are 3 pegs involved in this central double decrease. On this pattern, the CDD peg is 5th, peg 5. So we will bring one peg from peg 4 and place it on peg 5. And then another stitch from peg 6, bring it on peg 5. So now you see there are 3 stitches on peg 5, which is the CDD. But we don't need eyelets here, right? We need eyelet on peg 2, and we need eyelet on peg 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's create eyelets by shifting the stitches from peg 3 to peg 4 and peg 2 to peg 3. Now we have peg 2 empty. We'll do the same thing on the left side of central double decrease, which means bring the stitch on peg 7 to peg 6 and the stitch on peg 8 to peg 7. Now we have peg 8 empty and peg 2 empty. This is the row setup. It is always good to keep to set up the row before, so you have all the moves in front. And now we will unit everything. Unit 1, unit 2, and knit 3. This is the CDD. Knit 1.
So on the CDD, you're taking all 3 of those stitches over the top, and you can do them one at a time, or you can do them all together. It's easier to do it one at a time.
Or do one. I generally do 1 and then 2 together.
Yeah.
And unit 1 and unit stitch 6 is unit, 7 is unit, and 8 we will create a eyelet. For eyelet, just pass the working yarn loosely in front of it and anchor it or unit the first peg of the second round. Okay, second repeat. Now comes the third repeat. It's 4 repeat actually, yes. The third repeat is the curve. We'll go to peg 5, which is this. Move the stitch from peg 4 to peg 5, peg 3 to peg 4, and peg 2 to peg 3. And do the same thing on the left side. Shift the stitches. Because the stitch says knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, central double decrease, knit 2, and yarn over. So that's how we are going to achieve this. And now we are going to unit. Knit 1 and knit 2, making it 3. And knit 1 and knit 2. Pass the working yarn in front of the empty peg and anchor it. I hope some of you are knitting along. Notice one thing is that the unit prior to this is pretty loose. See, it is like this.
Pull
But
your hand
trust me,
down so we can't see the yarn. Yeah. If you look at how loose her stitches are, there's a lot of, she doesn't pull her yarn tight at all. So as we go and we'll start doing the unit row, it has to be kept very, very loose so that when you're moving stitches, they don't break and they don't move.
So here, I'm moving, I have started shifting the stitches very nicely. Lift one from here, bring it on peg 5, lift one from this, the left one from left, one from right, bring it to a central peg. That makes CDD. You need always 3 pegs to do CDD. And then shift the rest of the 2. And then again, I've shifted 2 from the left side, bring it, stitches from right will be brought forward, stitches from left will be brought backwards towards the right. That's the maths. And I'm going to pass now, eyelets are on peg 1, peg 2 and peg 8. I hope everybody can see my and since 7/16 and the new peg is longer, it is so easy because the stitches are loose, it doesn't come out. And now you see the last peg is eyelet peg. And after that, there are 3 pearls because it is my edge, this edge. You see there is a garter edge.
So on the rows where you're doing the knit stitches, your that you're doing the lace, you purl those. On the rows when you're doing unit, you knit the entire row. So that's going to help you remember that you purl those last 3 on the same row that you did your lace movement stitches.
A little garter edges. And now this was a slip stitch from previous row. I'm going to knit it. And then this is half a stitch or slip stitch indicated by V, an upside down V in the pattern. And I'm going to now knit the entire row. But when I'm knitting, I'm keeping my working yarn the tension very loose.
Farah, how do you get, if you wanted the end of yours to be scalloped, is that possible to get the other side?
To knit it in 2 pieces.
Okay.
Sometimes what I do is that I knit in 2 pieces and then seam from the middle.
Okay, so if you wanted to make a really long scarf and have a scallop on both ends, you would basically make 2 sides of it and then seam the center to put that 2 ties together to make that scarf. Yes?
Now there is the row 2 is all unit and I'm knitting it. I'll go a little fast. The pattern ebook has an embedded video as well, where I'm teaching this pattern all in one go. I would be happy to share the link to that. Even if you don't buy the book, it's perfectly fine. You can use that video. And of course you have this, but this is like an hour long.
It would be really difficult to match, like have scallops on all 4 sides. I don't think that, would it even be possible to make it scalloped on all 4 sides, Farah?
I can't do that. No.
Yeah, no, I don't think you could, at least not on the loom. So you can, because it's the scallops happening because of our CDCs in the center, but it would be really hard to make those on the sides. not scallops, just a border on 4 sides. Well, the border on the bottom would be hard to do. I mean, you could start with a garter bottom, but then at some point it's going to bring in that it's still going to scallop up at that bottom, isn't it, Farah? Even if you did a garter bottom, because it pulls up.
If you do a garter bottom, it won't pull that much.
It won't pull that much. Okay, so you could do a garter bottom, because that's the same as a brim in your hat. So you can do that, a brim, and it would be fine.
Okay, so see, when we started the pattern, we have just half a stitch, put a half a stitch. We are going to knit this now. And half a stitch again, okay? And 3 purls.
Okay, so we're starting on row 3 at this point, and she's doing her 3 purls for her garter side.
And row 3 is exactly the same like row 1. No brainer, isn't that? I love this pattern. It's so easy and just the best thing to start learning. And those people who haven't, who are always overwhelmed by laces, they said, oh, I can't do that. Looking at my lace, some of the people are saying, oh, we don't feel confident and we can do. I am now coming up with simpler lace patterns, which are pretty and beginners can do and experienced ones can do. One more interesting use of this pattern is that you can only make maybe 2 or 3 repeats of this pattern and do rest of the thing garter. So it forms a little edge, this scallop edge on blankets especially.
Oh yeah, that'd be really pretty.
Just give a lace, end to it. We'll do the same thing, and that is knit unit 1, go to peg 5, peg, stitch on peg 4 to peg 5, peg 3 to peg 4, and 2 to 1, 2 to 3. Let's move the left side is stitch to right side, shift them. Peg, stitch on peg 6 to peg 5, 7 to 6, and 8 to 7. How about somebody demonstrate that here instead of me the next set? If someone
I don't know
if anybody is confident enough to do that.
You're doing great, Farah, and now we can see it better. This is actually, we're seeing the loom better in this current position as you're doing the stitch over. So this is really good.
I broke one glass and moved the camera.
Oh.
And it went on very seamlessly. Nobody knew that I broke a glass. And then somebody came and cleaned the class.
Oh, that's so nice.
I've been training all my life, but craft teaching is a very different ballgame.
It's just getting everything in the right position. Okay, so now we're about to make another eyelet and with the yarn over.
See, peg 8 is
blank.
Place for another eyelet,
and you anchor it by then just you're wrapping 2 pegs at once. Does anyone have questions on that? Are most people okay understanding the yarn overs? Just want to make sure most people's cameras are off today, so I don't know how people are doing, but thumbs up if we're understanding it. We're good? Okay. Good. Good.
This round was I knitted a little tighter because of the position, but it still happened because this yarn has a stretch to it.
Nice. I think that moving the central double decrease, the CDD, shifting that first, at least for me, helps me. If I shift my 4 to my 5 and my 6 to my 5, I'm like, okay, I have my 3 on one peg and then I do my other shifting. That is easier for me for each of those sets of 8. The question is, so when doing CDD on this, do we lift top yarn and place the yarn overs and place top yarn back? On this one, we don't.
I don't do that.
No, on other patterns, that has been happened, but not on this one. On this one, you just lift them over.
Why we do that? There is a reason for everything that we do in lace knitting, because you see this nice, pretty rib going in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It is done so that this is neat. It comes.
It's pretty flat, nice, right?
Even it is not, wrapped like awkwardly. Interestingly, if you'll see this pattern, the needle knitting one, CDD is always not so neat like we have it in Looms. There are some of the things which I notice is that us loom knitters, we have an advantage. CDD is an advantage. Socks, heels are an advantage. Sometimes they have to use 4 needles in order to make something. So yeah. And now, see, this time I have knitted both. You can do both ways instead of setting the whole pattern. And then I've done this side, knitted and shifted. And now I'm shifting the left side towards the right side. Okay. Knit 1, knit 2, and knit 3. I have to show you one thing. Right now, the position is such that my hands are hiding things. But when I am shifting, I always have one of the fingers supporting the yarn overs. So when we are shifting the stitches, it doesn't fall down. Sometimes it falls and it gets lost in the knit and it starts frogging.
So just kind of keeping that yarn supported and back.
So eyelet on 8 peg and knit the first one. Now the last time, okay? This is the last one, and after that we have 5 rows of simple unit. Couldn't be simpler than this, people. Okay, so peg 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on peg 5th, we are creating the CDD, lifting the stitch on peg 4, bringing it to peg 5. You need the fingers to do this, but right now I could do it because this yarn is very knit friendly, and the pegs, long pegs, you can do a lot of things. The stitch on peg 3, bring it on peg 4. The stitch on peg 2, bring it on peg 3. Peg 1 is empty now. Now let's start shifting the stitches from left side to right. The stitch on peg 6 goes to peg 5. Now there are 3 stitches on peg 5. Continue shifting. The stitch on peg 7 goes to peg 6. The stitch on peg 8 goes on peg 7. And peg 8 is empty. Peg 8 is empty. Peg 2 is empty. Pass the working yarn in front of peg 2. Wrap it around peg 3. Unit. And there are unit 2. So knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, and CDD, which is knit 3. I'll do this one by one. First stitch, second stitch, and third stitch. And now there are 2 units. Unit 2, and create an eyelet on the 8th peg and anchor the yarn on the, sorry, we will not anchor it, but we are going to purl it because the last 3 stitches are purl stitches.
Okay, it's in this one.
And the half stitch, and we will knit the entire round. The whole, the entire 40 will, sorry, 38 actually, because there are 2 edges are, we will and knit it loose. So now there are 5, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8 are all knit, simple unit. Go on knitting.
Farah,
Yeah.
the hat chart in the one we made today seems to be missing some of the information. So after class, I want to get that fixed so we can send it out to everybody, okay? Because the numbers are just different. So then you just continue that same repeat all the way through, right? So let me look, because can you put that down just a little bit? So we're only doing, so it just has a row 1, 2, 3, and then you just continue to repeat that same thing in 4, so that it's always the same movement. The CDD is always on peg 5, and your yarn overs are always 2 and 8 for this whole pattern. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you see the instruction, it says rows 1 and 3 are same. Rows 1 and 3 are same.
Yes, I just, because it says we are repeating 8 rows and then the rest of the chart just showed knit stitches on the 8 rows, it was confusing.
So rows 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is knit all.
Yes, but rows 1, 3, 5, 7 should have yarn overs in peg.
No.
Look at
That's wrong.
Look at my chart.
Error.
Look at this. To see how, if you look at my chart, there's nothing in all these rows.
Yeah, it is nothing. There's nothing. They're all knit unit rows. This is only 2 rows have eyelets.
Okay.
And after it, you can start another, like, another set of pattern repeats. So it creates this. Yes, it is just this simple.
Okay, so I guess I'm just confused.
That is precisely how it is.
So we do the first row and the third row, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows that are all unit rows before you start over on the hat.
Yes.
So that is how it's done.
Then again, we will repeat this whole thing once again and once again and once
so
again.
Those are correct, because you don't just keep going with that for the hat. You do all those rows and then you create those eyelets again later. That's where I was confused. Okay, good. All right, thank you for explaining. I know you're not working on the hat, but I knew some people were, and I wanted to make sure it was clear because I was confused. Thank you. So row 3 should be the same, Mary May. It's missing the central double decrease in that picture, but I'm going to update it and you'll get a new email with it. So
basically row 1 and 3 are exactly the same.
Yep.
And now I'm going back. I'm on row 5, row 5, which is again a unit.
Okay. Can I share my screen with the one you sent me that is accurate for just a second, Farah?
Yes, no, please do that.
Okay.
Because I'm only uniting.
Okay, let me share it because now that I understand it better, because I'm new to all this stuff too, you guys. Okay, so this chart shows that we are doing the slip stitch, and then these with the dots are your purl for the 3 here, and then you have your yarn over on peg 6, and your yarn you're putting together on the 5. So your 5 stitch pattern is here in the center of your purls for your edges. This is for the flat project. Okay, so that helps us.
And you repeat it. You will repeat it 4 times.
And you'll repeat it 4 times. And then the rows up here, you'll notice on row 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, this row 4 is an all knit pattern. On row 5, you're still going to do your purl edges, even though the center is all knit. And as we go up, so hopefully that is a little more clear. Now I'm more clear. I was a little bit confused. So thank you for everyone being patient as I learn also. And that's for the washcloth. And here on the hat version, the one that we sent you before was missing this second double decrease. It's now there. And this will be, I'll resend this out. So you'll get an email with an updated PDF from the class, all those who are registered for the class. It will also have the video link for today's lesson so that you can rewatch the video. So it will have the new chart in there plus the video link. So thank you all for being patient.
With this pattern, you can successfully, beautifully, and very easily make this washcloth, the small soap bag, the cowl, the boot topper, hats. Hats look really pretty. And blanket, shawl, scarf. And also give edges to knits. Like maybe
can you show us the hat that you did, Farah? So we can kind of see those rows that were, so we have the pattern and then we have those 4 unit rows. So yeah, I just want to kind of look. So we have the eyelet rows, and then you've got 4 rows that are just unit in between when we do those, and that creates the space in between. And then we create those again. Okay, that's kind of, is that helping, Cheryl?
These little eyelets I didn't have.
Okay.
You see there are these little rosettes.
Yeah. So that's kind of what gives us space in between, so the whole thing's not eyelets. Okay.
If you see how this pattern is, like, you know, the ensemble is made up of, I think this is easier to explain here on this. Let's put this aside for a while.
It's funny because it is a very simple pattern, yet it creates such intricate work. It makes it feel more confusing than it should be, honestly. It's like, it seems so simple. This should be harder.
It's illegal to make it so simple. No.
I know. But what?
Yeah. So see, this pattern is an ensemble of these pretty little rosettes here. Mm-hmm. And then there is a line of these bunches or bell curve shaped things, flowers. And together it makes, you know, like a pretty floral design.
Yes.
And all we have to do is to make 2 rows of eyelet.
And then the rest are just your unit pro rows. That's amazing. This really is probably your simplest pattern you've done, Farah. And I'm more confused by it than your other ones, because I'm like, wait, something must be missing, because we're not moving where our central decrease is, and we're not moving where our eyelets are. And so I think that's where my brain was like, what's missing? But it's really just that simple, you guys. How exciting is that?
But
Very
guys,
cool.
Please know one thing is that when you are knitting, keep in mind the direction where you are starting, when you are ending. And that is why this class is important, because you actually saw from where I started, where I ended. And while I'm just doing this unit, I won't mind taking questions.
Okay. where I think, let's see. So someone says the pattern, please, the pattern needs to state each move, in my opinion. So yeah, so some people do explain like shift left, shift right. Farah's patterns are more written using the
that is a video that comes with this pattern.
And she brings a video. There's just different styles. Some designers write out every single like shift peg 8 to peg 9 to peg 10, shift take and others depend on the charts more. But yes, it is. I definitely am a visual learner and learn much good from the videos.
I'm a visual learner and I get confused by too much of written instructions.
Yes, so when if your unit row is tight, it will make it much harder to move your stitches. So keeping that in between row nice and loose. You can E-wrap that row. Some people, if you're really struggle with tension, that's a good way to practice. And it does make it so moving the stitches is easier, but your holes are going to be bigger. So that is an option, but it does make it so your eyelets end up being bigger.
If you see the design, it basically, no, I guess you can try but only E-wrapping the.
Yeah, it's only the rows that are creating so that the next row you can do the eyelets. Mm-hmm. But I know that's a trick that some people will use in order to keep that yarn loose so they can move it on the eyelet rows that are going to have to be eyelet rows.
All right, so I'm doing 6. Actually, I'm doing 7 now, not 6. I'm doing 7, and I'll bring it back one last row, and I'm left with 8 more minutes. More questions? Any more questions?
That I don't see any more written in. Maybe we did have someone just saying a combination. So it's possible that having a description in the CDD explaining like CDD, we shift stitches from the left to the right to create the central decrease could help when people are reading it. So that some people are just giving suggestions. Yeah, or just giving some suggestions.
If any one of you are buying the ebook, it has all the description. It is not in the class because in the class I'm demonstrating.
Yeah. So it says the very start of both patterns, please go over. So the very beginning of the washcloth pattern, you're cast on, you E-wrap the first row to cast on and then purl the second row to create her edge. So you E-wrap the whole loom and then you do a purl and that's your cast on. Those two things together equal your cast on. For the hat, she does the row 1 is the E-wrap and the same thing. She does mostly all of her cast ons the same 1 row E-wrap, 1 row purl. And then you can do a rib 2 by 2 or 1 by 1 to create your brim. And those are the basic beginnings of both those. Does that explain? Does that explain the question? She for Farah's patterns, she always E-wraps and purls the cast on, but you could do a chain cast on if you wanted to. It would just have a different look at the start.
And also the hat brim is the knits are all E-wrap.
And it creates a chunkier rib if you use the E-wrap for the ribs. The next question. Hat into the crown. So when you go, after you've done your different stitches, you just do a gathered bind off to your brim. You don't decrease down your brim, do you? I mean, your crown, Farah.
If you want, you can do that. If you know how to do it, then you please go ahead and decrease.
Yeah. So, but she's generally just doing the regular gathered bind off for her hats. But if you wanted to do a decrease,
bind off. This one is flat bind off.
Is the flat?
This one. And also my suggestion is that when you make this kind of knits, especially if the knitted fabric is it is of like this is twisted yarn, very thick and chunky or bulky yarn. The last few rows, don't do the laces or don't make the pattern, just plain unit.
Oh, as you do the crown.
Yeah, that's the tip.
Yeah. And then you're going to get a discount if you decide you want to buy the ebook that has more specified information, and it has a lot more information in it with more of the patterns. Because you took the class, you're going to get that for 50% off today if you order that. And there will be a link with there will be a coupon code that's in the same file that you're going to upload that will have the Zoom video. Okay, so it'll have your video so you can rewatch it. It will have a coupon code that you can use for her Lavender ebook to get a discount on her ebook that she's made, and on our website, and the link to that you can order it on the website. So all of those will also be available, and I'll be getting all that ready to send here as soon as I get the video downloaded and uploaded and stuff, but here in a little bit. Are there any other questions? Yes, so it does say, the question says she has the lace all the way to the top. Farah did do lace all the way to the top on her hat, but she was just saying if you want to make it simpler, the top part of your hat, you can just do a unit on that top part before you go into the gathered bind off. Did you do like the 3 rows to do the flat bind off? Did you do it too?
The bind off?
Well, so you said you did the flat bind off, which is usually you go into like a 2x2, 2 knit, 2 purl to create the flat bind off and go in and out. And so, but you only have to do like 3 to 6 rows of that, depending on how big of a flat top you want. And so that's my guess is how she did that top.
In the ebook, there is a link with only 2 rows. I use that.
So I can give you guys a sneak preview of her ebook. Let me see.
I'll share the charts on the ebook.
Christy?
Yes.
What is next month's class?
Great question. Great question. Farah, I don't know that Farah has decided what she's teaching next month. Have you?
Pardon? Yes.
Have you? So they want to know what next month's class is.
Oh, I'll show you. Just give me a minute.
Okay. I'm going to get this other file from her that she had sent me. Got too many windows open. So this is a preview of her ebook. Okay, so it has the washcloth, the soap pouch, the adult hat, the boot topper, and the cowl. It talks about more specifically how you do the CDD double decrease, and has instructions of how you slip 2, knit past 2 stitches over, and how you do those different things. Then for the patterns, it has the cast on, talks about the sides that you're doing with the garters, and then it has the charts. This chart, she says she's going to fix this chart before we upload it. It's missing the second double decrease. We're going to make sure that's done. And then it shows the hat done with the chunky. So it has more information. Will it have as much information as like the written out every single row? That's not how Farah does her patterns. So it doesn't necessarily have that the way that some other designers do. It does go through the cowl, how to prepare the 128 peg, And it has the charts again. The chart, we know that the chart is missing that central double decrease. We talked about it before the class, and we're going to get those put in prior to uploading it. So that kind of helpful to see kind of what it looks like. Okay. All right. And now we'll go back to Farah showing us her next thing. Stop share. Okay. Now you can show us what you're working on, Farah.
Yeah. This is coming up next.
Ooh, that's beautiful. What is it called?
I haven't yet named it. It's a leafy pattern. It's a leafy pattern. I wanted to call it kale, because that's my favorite vegetable, and it's very kale color. But yeah, it is just leafy pattern, a leafy lace,
Leafy lace, so pretty, so pretty. Are there any other questions before we finish today? Our hour is up.
Beautiful, I have one, and that looks like a tulip, actually. If you look at the pattern of that green, it looks like a tulip. It's nice. Yeah. On both sides, you see, almost like on the side, it's like a Pac-Man.
Oh, it looks tulip if it is upside down. It looks tulip if it is like this.
So pretty. Oh yeah, it does. That's so pretty.
It's like this, and it's a leaf like this.
Any other questions?
Before I take a question, I wanted to explain one thing is that, this cowl, okay, the boot topper and the hat, they are all round knitting. They follow the same formula. Just that in the hat, you make a brim. In the boot topper, you make cuff on two sides. You can use the same boot topper formula and add heel and toes, and it becomes a socks. If you have knitted socks, you can do this.
You read my mind.
And this is round knit as well. And this is round knit as well. It is knitted on 40 the 40 peg glue, and the base is stitched. Either you stitch it or you draw string bind off like that. And
so cute.
It's
the ruffle on the top of that bag is just so adorable. It's
which is the edging I was asking
Which is
about.
the edging. Yeah. So that's that beginning edging.
In the actual pattern, there is, it's an edging, and then there is there is a separate pattern for edging, I guess. I'll just see. I forgot. I wrote that book quite a
That's going to be really nice as like on the bottom of sleeves on a sweater. I'm like, my head's going everywhere on this.
Yay!
Yay! Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Or joining? Yes, questions now.
Before we finish, good job, everybody. We hope we all learned something, and we'll make sure that the PDF and everything for both classes, this one and everything, we have that updated cross out central double decrease on the 5th row, and that will be great. And thank you for everything, Farah. We love learning from you. We've got people saying, I appreciate the class. It's very helpful to learn how. So I think for the most part, we were successful again. Yay. Okay, so we love to see your projects. Join the Farah's lace class, lace group on Facebook, and post your projects. We love to see that people are learning and trying these things. It's super fun. And
also, if you are making something else beside these things using this pattern, you need my help. I would do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's very good at answering questions on there. She's very active, and if you post something and you have a question in the group, is a great way to ask her a question.
Sometimes I even shout out people if they are willing to. I really want loom knitters to
learn how to do charts, because that's how needle knit is done a lot. Yes,
version of a chart
you can do the charts
and,
with the little arrows. That's how we know to move one to another, is the little arrows. So if you're going to move on, let's say from peg 6 to peg 5, you're going to go left
Well,
arrow to the right. It's just very
in the
simple little,
charts, in the
on the
chart, there
chart.
is nothing like that.
Well, she's trying to mimic what Farah is trying to mimic
It's
is
needle knitting.
is
I
needle
know.
knitting, so
Yes,
that
I
we can
understand.
take needle knit patterns and learn from them and use them, which I think her goal is to have us in our brain understand what we have to do with the loom. But I do understand, Cheryl, I totally understand that putting in those arrows is very helpful for people who don't understand that. So yes, I do understand.
And also, you know, for all these shifting, all these like CDD or SSK or all the eyelet making things, there are very short tutorials that the links are given in my pattern.
Video links.
So if you go there, you can actually see my hands doing that, and you won't be needing arrows. By adding arrows.
No, for me, I understand all of what that is, but it's your sequencing. That's what for me, that's what I would need the pattern for, to know, okay, you're making this eyelet, you need this yarn over, and your central double decrease this is where it is. I know how to do that. I just need to know where it is. I know how to do all the moves. I just need to know where you're placing them to accomplish the pattern that you're showing. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay. So we're going to stop the recording at this point.